Coming back from the weekend. Happy Monday, Utah hockey fans. It is Mailbag Monday. Also, is Utah Hockey Club exploring options to trade Victor Soderstrom? We'll discuss on today's episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your number one daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club. I am your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Tom Callahan. We want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every single day. We are free and available everywhere you get your shows. We got a great one on today's episode, Tom. We're going to get into some more mailbag questions as we continue our Mailbag Monday. Plus, we're going to discuss other things, Utah Hockey Club. And why not go ahead and start off with a report that we saw from our friend of the pod, Craig Morgan. He tweeted it out on Sunday afternoon that it appears that there are essentially two options now for Victor Soderstrom. Yeah, the goal is to re-sign him, but what it seems like they are exploring options to trade the defenseman.
Well, it's interesting with Soderstrom because he's never really established himself in the NHL. And I think that is kind of what Utah Hockey Club is looking at right now. Can you keep this guy around? And look, defensemen bloom later, I think, as a whole, as a people, if you will.
Yeah.
Defensemen can come along later. So there's no real reason to move on from him. If you feel you can get a reasonable extension and you think, we'll see. I mean, you picked him 11th overall. You know, this wasn't a third rounder that if it doesn't pan out, you kind of shrug. You invested a first rounder. So there is a little bit more want to try to develop the prospect. But I also think at this point for Utah, they're listening for trades because maybe a change of scenery does the player good. Or the other scenario might be, hey, we can turn this into something else that we can either A, use now, or B, stock back up with picks and prospects. And again, we've seen what Utah can do with those at the draft. So either way, if you feel like the player doesn't fit in your plans long-term or even really short-term, there's no harm.
I feel like there seems to be a lot of that kind of thought process coming on of a lot of the players who were drafted in the latter years of the John Chayka era. You know, the last couple of years of that John Chayka era, they're like, that's a Chayka pick, versus Armstrong and what he expects in a hockey team that he's building. Bill Armstrong has a completely different mindset than John Chayka. They're vastly different general managers. And it's not to say that they still tried. They're still trying to make Soderstrom work. They're trying to see what's possible. And again, that's their goal, to re-sign them and bring them back. But maybe that's kind of what the holdout is right now, right? They've put a qualifying offers to hold on to the rights to negotiate with them, but still have yet to come to a deal. And maybe that's kind of where he's at. He's like, all right, I need either a sweet deal to stay at this organization, or let's just get me out of here, trade me.
Well, and his prospects for landing in the top six have dramatically changed in a matter of a month, right?
Oh, yeah.
We went from nobody to all of a sudden they look pretty full defensively. So it's a different scenario now. And perhaps from the player's perspective, he doesn't see the opportunity to maybe have a good camp and crack the lineup that might have been there otherwise, had Utah just kind of proceeded status quo, not made the deals they made. Because let's face it, between trades and free agency, they filled their top three defensive positions. So I really think that this Utah Hockey Club's defensive outlook is, number one, it's better, way better than it was. But number two, there's just not room, right? I mean, it's a numbers game. You can only carry so many D. You can only dress so many D. So if the numbers aren't working out for him, and again, maybe that's the other thing to it as well. He doesn't fit the mold, as you mentioned. When you get a new GM in there, they naturally are going to favor the guys they picked. And so it doesn't surprise me that maybe you're hearing, it might be time to go.
I mean, as a huge example, let's take a look at, the last couple of years of how quickly it went for JJ Moser, for example, to jump over Soderstrom. They were both started the year, when Moser took this, was in, had his first season in Tucson. They were both in Tucson. And then everyone was like, oh yeah, when's Soderstrom going to get his chance? But then like Moser got his call up. He played so well. It's like, he's the guy. He is now a number 7 D-man, and then moved up the ladder. And of course, now he's with Tampa, but it's still the same. That's kind of what we're seeing. Armstrong is bringing his guys in, and the develops coming in. It's like, all right, this is kind of how I want my defense to look. Who's the guy that's been kind of, the odd man out, who's been kind of feeling left out of all that? It's Victor Soderstrom, and I feel bad in that case. I've really wanted this guy to develop. I've had high hopes for him ever since he got drafted.
Well, sure. You want everybody to pan out, right? I mean, you always want to be right. You want everybody you pick. You want to see them turn into NHL All-Stars. Doesn't always work that way. So I think that, and honestly, again, it's not so much that, I mean, again, defensemen develop a little later, so I don't think he's necessarily outside of a timeline. He's still an RFA. You could extend him. But on the other hand, I'll be honest with you, Robyn, and this is just me as a manager of people. Let's throw hockey out the window. If you want to be there and be a part of what I'm building culturally in my organization, whatever, selling widgets, then I want you there. If you're not a fit, or you're not interested, or you're not committed, I don't want you there. And obviously, we won't know the conversations between player and organization, but maybe that's why they're starting to listen a little bit. They're not losing anything here. You still have RFA status on him. You can figure something out, but at this point, I mean, if he doesn't really fit in the plans, you might as well try to get something back.
Yeah, and I think the one of the things that might be holding back, and and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on your thoughts about this, but maybe there's a sense in some kind of sense in the thought process of, do they really want to have to trade away another first-round defenseman? They last couple of years they had to trade away Jacob Chychrun, and not for the value they wanted.
Chychrun was an NHL player, though.
Yes, but not for the value they wanted. They still had to, and they still had to get rid of. They had to get rid of him for a very different reason, right? But he was still a first-round defenseman nonetheless, a first-round pick defenseman. And again, here comes another one. He was picked 11th in, was it 2019? So,
but again, you previous regime, I don't think there's an attachment to the player. I think it's easier to move on if that is what they decide to do. So
that's valid.
I honestly do think GMs get sentimental attachments to quote unquote their guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe in them when they shouldn't. They continue believing in players who just aren't going to pan out. There's always this guy's going to get better. He's going to break through. They don't always do that. Now, sometimes they do, and they prove the GM right, and that's why GMs get jobs. But when your players don't pan out and you end up out of a job down the line, the next guy who comes in has no real skin in the game when it comes to seeing your guy develop or not. And again, on a team where now the defense is much more stocked than it was a month ago, it's a different scenario.
And plus, as I mentioned, Tom, it's the vast difference in style between Chyka and Armstrong. Very different.
Yeah, it was a little bit more money puck before, wasn't it? I mean, that's really what we were dealing with. And it's kind of funny. We've made the comment, and I've heard other people also make the comment about, Ryan Smith is not going to be patient here. He wants to pursue winning. he wants his team to be competing for a cup as soon as possible. I think he's also realistic and realizes they're not lifting Lord Stanley this coming year, but they're building towards it. So
yeah,
if in Bill we trust, you're going to let him go out and do his thing. Then you just say, all right, here you go. Here are the keys. You drive, and I hope we end up in the right place.
Absolutely. We're going to keep going on this episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. We're going to get to some mailbag questions. One thing that also got brought up, we found out that the single game tickets for the Utah Hockey Club have been released. We'll talk about that right after this.
Well, we're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging, so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Join the more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show, saying you heard about Indeed on our podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Let's keep going in this episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. Now, Tom, this is something that you brought up right before we started recording, and I felt like, you know what, let's go ahead and talk about it. In the single game tickets becoming available to fans now, and it shows you we're getting closer and closer to the season, Tom, and it doesn't feel real yet. Still doesn't feel real to me.
No, we're inside that 3-month barrier, and as I was taking a look, so they're available through the Utah Hockey Club's website, but they're doing things a little differently. And again, slightly smaller capacity than most NHL arenas. Their seats, their single games are already out there, and keep in mind they had far more requests for season tickets than they had seats by 3 times. So I know that some fans, Robyn, have shared with us their consternation and the problems they've had and their inability to even get season tickets or the right half-season package. There's been some, wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth. But if I take a look over on the website, some of the games, and it's dynamic pricing, right? Because this particular website, I don't know if we can mention who it is, so I won't. This particular website that does both box office and verified resale tickets. The resale, they say, maybe above face value. Well, no kidding. So opening night for the Blackhawks, the cheapest you're getting in the building right now, according to this little map I've got in front of me, is $262. And it's $2,000 to sit lower bowl, a couple of rows off the ice, or right behind the visiting bench. I took a look at some of the other games that are out there. And believe it or not, some of the cheaper games, the cheapest game I found was actually the Buffalo Sabres. There are still seats available for $59 to get in there and go check out the Sabres. And you can sit in the front row behind the net, the Defend Twice net, for $68. That's not bad. And you're looking straight down the ice. Those are good seats. If you want to go see the Bruins, though, the cheapest you're getting in the building at this point is now $170. So, New Jersey is going to be a little cheaper game. That's hovering around $100. Columbus. I'm trying to do the research for you here, Utah fans. I'm trying to get you cheap seats. $82 for Columbus. Winnipeg, I see $58. That just changed, actually. So demand might be down in the Winnipeg game, down to $58. That's about on par with Buffalo. Vegas, I wanted to look at just because I was curious and see if that's going to be the rivalry. The cheapest is 114 right now, Rob, and the most expensive, though, that's for sale is actually 562. So, and then Islanders might be a cheaper game too. I still see seats under $100 for that one. But yeah, Buffalo, it looks like in Winnipeg, probably your best bet as far as inexpensive getting in the building. But man, if you want to see opening night against Chicago, get a side hustle, then get another side hustle, and then get one more just to be sure. It is not cheap.
No, it is not. And one thing that it brought, it kind of gave the idea to a couple Utah fans. They started talking about it on social media, and I even played along a little bit on our Twitter page at LO_NHL Utah, of the possibility of having, for those that aren't able to afford to get in the doors on opening night, have a Locked On hangout at a bar right outside.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool if we could do either a plaza party or a patio party. I'm sure the weather's still going to be nice.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fantastic.
So,
we're talking early October.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Yeah, and if you guys are down for it, let us know in the comments. Or send us a DM. And if you know a bar that'd be willing to do it, send them their way, and we'll reach out.
Maybe you own said establishment that would like to have.
Maybe you do. Yes, exactly. And we would love to hear. So send us a direct message on Twitter or on Instagram, or really just let us know anywhere. And again, in the comments, if you're on YouTube, we would love to hear if you have that, and then we'd love to get in contact with you guys and really get that kind of thing going. So we think that would be a unique opportunity for Utah hockey fans. You can't afford to get into the game, we're still going to have a fun party nonetheless.
Yes, absolutely. That would be a lot of fun. And you know what? It's going to be here before you know it. But again, with the prices the way they are and the building, smaller. And Robyn, that's the other thing. Tell the folks about the plan as far as the restricted site tickets and whether or not they go on sale.
So from what I understand is those restricted site tickets will not be available for single game purchase tickets off the box office value. So like the team themselves will not sell those restricted seats for single game tickets. Now, whether or not you are a season ticket holder, partial season ticket holder, whatever, and you have one of those seats, you are free. You are free to sell those. You might have a little more difficulty, again, given where it is, but that's the only option. You can only get them off of the resale value.
I could argue both ways for that. I could argue about not selling them and argue for selling them as well. So there's pros and cons to both approaches.
Yeah.
So that's just what Utah Hockey Club has chosen to do.
From what I heard, it's like, yeah, it's not something that we want to promote. And I'm like, which I get, but I can, maybe it kind of goes what like you were saying too, Tom. Like their goal is like they don't need to get as many butts and seats as possible. Like they've got the money, they got things taken care of, whatever. Plus, as we even talked about, is if all the plans for the new arena renovations go in place, 3 years down the road, there won't be any issues with the restricted sites anymore. That's the hope.
Right. And it tells me, and so here's one of the pros, is that to me, it sounds like Utah is more focused on the fan experience as a whole, including how much of the rink you can see from your seat. So that's at least encouraging to me that it is not being viewed as a money grab, because they very easily could sell those seats for all home games, and they're choosing not to.
Yeah, and especially if the value of the ticket value that we're seeing, you could definitely get a lot from it too. It's
somebody's making money off it. It's not me.
Nope, not me. That's for sure. I would love to be making some money off of that, but that's maybe for another day, right?
Exactly.
But we got more to get to on this episode. It is Mailbag Monday still. We got a couple of mailbag questions from our Insider Club members. We will get to those right after this. So let's keep going, Tom. Let's get to some Mailbag Monday. Brought to you by our fans from our Insider Club. If you've yet to be a member of our Insider Club, all you got to do is send a text to the number 801-760-9033 to get started. You can be a part of that, a part of our weekly mailbag. You can text us one-on-one, ask us any other questions you have outside of the mailbag call-outs. And you can just really get some exclusive content that's going to be coming your way shortly. A lot of it's going to be coming in as we get closer to the season and when training camp and when preseason hits. So now is the best time to get it. You can kind of get your feel for it, see how you guys like it. You get 14 days free. If you don't have to stick with us. We hope you do, but it's a good way to try it out and see if you guys like it. And we're hoping it is a good experience for all of you Utah hockey fans. But once again, 801-760-9033. Let's get to some questions, Tom. And I want to start off with one question, or actually, this is actually 2 questions, and it's a 2-parter, and it's from 2 different people, but they regard the same topic. So I put them 2 together. So it is 2 questions from John and Charles, and they ask, how important is naming a captain this season? And do you think not having named a captain impacts team chemistry?
Good question. And for me, I think because this team is an established team, there will probably be a captain. That said, if you don't name a team captain, first question, how important is it? You can live without it.
Yeah.
I think it's more for the fans at that point. The guys in the room know who the leaders are. Do I think not having named a captain impacts team chemistry? No, because you're going to have probably then 4 A's instead of 2 or 3. And they may change home and road. It depends. But again, this isn't a brand new team. This isn't 25 guys coming together for the first time in September trying to figure it out. So they're walking in the door mostly knowing one another. Yes, there's some new pieces.
Yeah.
You will see some leadership and some additions in there. I honestly don't think not naming a captain right away would negatively impact them. But that said, I'd be a little surprised if they didn't come out of camp with a captain in mind.
And I think, one of the things that Andre Tourigny has said, he's like, he wants it to be unanimous, right? He wants but if it's not unanimous, you have the alternates, the listed alternates who create the leadership group. They are your captains per se. It's not just one single captain who wears a C, but it is a group of guys who wear the A. And they're still almost just as, even if not as important as as the actual captains of teams who wear the C who wear the C patch. In the case of this Utah Hockey Club, if I think I'm not mistaken, you have your core 3 as we've talked about on our Get to Know You series, and Keller, Schmaltz, and Krause. They are known, leaders of the team already. There has been talk whether or not, the new defenseman Mikhail Sergachev will get some kind of letter. Certainly a possibility with his experience and his just his overall veteran presence. I think someone like him probably could very well get one.
And I don't know if I'd want to do that to him right away, to be honest with you, Robyn. When a guy comes into a new situation, especially coming back off injury, I don't know if I want to put that pressure on him right away.
Which totally makes sense, right? I feel like there was a situation which I could think, you get a defenseman or a player who gets named a, part of the leadership group, and like let's say they get an A and they're already much higher, but they're not used to that kind of pressure. And you see them on the ice, they're like, they don't look right. Something looks off.
It's also why I think it's weird when teams name a captain who's like 21 or 22 years old. And I know it's been done. I know there've been incredibly young team captains, Trevor Linden, Sidney Crosby.
Or name a team captain right out the gate, right? Like they come out a player who comes straight from a whole nother team and like that's our captain. Vegas, I'm looking at you in name. And Toronto also looking at you too.
Well, it's not like Mark Messier walked in the door for the Rangers, right? When Moose ends up with the Rangers, you have an idea that guy's going to be your leader. You know, he comes in with a couple of rings and been there, done that. One of the best players of his era. Totally different story, you know. But I last I checked, Mark Messier did not sign a contract with the Utah Hockey Club. So
no,
but no, I agree with you on that. I think it's a weird scenario.
It really is a weird scenario. But you know, as kind of to my point, and as you kind of already answered the question, I'll even say this: like it should impact team chemistry because they know who their leaders are. They know who they need to reach out to, and they know that the coach and everyone knows. And as I mentioned earlier, that a team captain should be, you know, a no, like it should be like a no contest. Everyone already knows who it is. Is what I'm kind of get at, right? If you're in that locker room, you already know who it is. Doesn't matter what the letter dictates.
And certainly, you don't need to have a letter to speak up.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That's the other thing too. Is there are guys who don't have letters, who like Ian Cole. That's a guy I expect to speak up, letter or no letter. I think he's going to have something to say in the room. Might take him, a couple of weeks to really get in there, but it might not. And he might be a very good leader for this team. But realistically, he's on a 1-year deal. Are you going to make him your captain? It'd be a surprise if they did, but I don't see that. You know what I mean? You just leave him as a veteran leader, let him do his thing, because he's only there for a 1-year deal. I think a captain is someone who's going to have some consistency within the organization.
Absolutely. So to both John and Charles, that's our answer. Hope that answers your questions. So we can so that kind of helps better your understanding of how it goes on here. Now let's go to our Insider Club member, Caden, who I showed this to Tom before we went on the air so he can get some preparation of how to answer this one. What goal song do you pick for year one?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. I like this. Some players, though, and some like Buffalo, for instance, the players pick their own goal songs. So everybody's goal song is different. And it's interesting to see what some of the guys pick for their goal song. I can't remember who it was, but somebody picked ABBA's "A Man After Midnight" as their goal song. Yep. I mean, everybody picks a little something different. But then there are team songs, and I'm sure if you hear, the Maple Leafs or the Rangers or the Minnesota Wild goal song, oh yeah, I know that song.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. I'm going to go way off the map here. I'm going to go out into the desert with this suggestion, and I'm going to say "Sledgehammer" by Peter Gabriel. That used to be the win song of my men's league team, and I don't even know how it started, but it just worked. It was weird. No one ever suggested it. It just got played one time after the game, and we happened to win. And then the next thing you know, it's like every time we win, we played Sledgehammer. That could easily be somebody's goal song.
I mean, that certainly could be.
I like that you're not feeling it, are you?
It could. I mean,
it's okay. It's okay.
I have to go back and maybe like hear it as part of a goal, with the goal horn tandem and kind of see how it goes and how it works together, because they got to work and they got to work together in my opinion, and I think a lot of it has to do with the identity of a team, and I feel like that kind of has to go with why it's only gonna at least they'll only have one for year one, because once they get a team name, then you can really decide.
True.
Maybe you can find a little bit more. Doesn't have to be that way, right? There are a lot of teams out there who just kind of that's what their goal song is. Take a look at Boston. How long have they been having the Zombie Nation song as their goal song? Like, it's been going on forever. I think. How long did I know they don't do it anymore? How long did the Canucks use Holiday? I honestly missed that one. That was a nice one that they had.
I wouldn't even know, to be honest with you. It's honestly not something I keep track of, is how long teams use things for goal songs and what have you. But I think
see that's the thing. I've been a goal song nerd, so I know a lot of like what a team is.
You probably know way more than I do as far as that goes.
I think there was a time when really I think out of like the 28 teams or 30 teams that were that was 30, it was 30 teams at the time. Out of the 30 teams in the National Hockey League in like the 2000s, there were about most of them used about 4 songs at the time. Like now we don't do that, right? Now everyone uses their own, right? You had about 7 or 8 teams use the Hey song from Gary Glitter. About 7 or 8 teams used the Zombie Nation song. About 7 or 8 teams used the song 2 from Blur. Like it's like we're going away from that, but part of me kind of wants to go back to one of those songs.
Well, you can't do Gary Glitter anymore.
You can't do Gary Glitter anymore, and that's unfortunate. Again, there's a very good reason why. It's unfortunate. I do miss that one because that's what I grew up on.
Honestly, even if it was still okay, if I never heard it again, it would be too soon. I'm so over that song.
Really?
That's just me. Oh, I can't stand it.
Maybe maybe it's because I grew up on it, because it brings me nostalgia, brings me absolute, especially because growing up, the Sharks didn't just actually do the song, they did it with the organist actually had it played, like he kind of did a recording of it and did his own rendition of it, which was pretty cool. What would I do for Utah? I really gotta. I don't know yet. Still, like, because I feel like I have to. I'm the kind of person probably that more feels like I have to like when I hear it, I'll know it.
Okay. I just real quick, I'm trying to look up just musical groups from Utah just to see if anyone. Apparently, Imagine Dragons and Lindsey Sterling. Maybe Lindsey Sterling could do an instrumental.
Like a freaking like crazy like violin EDM. Like I could be for that.
Yeah.
Lindsey Sterling is the GOAT. I love her.
Please don't use Imagine Dragons. I'm not but that's just me.
I'm not against Imagine Dragons.
Brandon Flowers is a Utah artist. Neon Trees. I would support dusting off Neon Trees for this one. Oh, Brendan Urie, the Panic at the Disco, is from Utah. The Used is also from Utah. Of course, the Osmonds. Jewel. I thought Jewel Kilcher was from Alaska. The National Parks, David Archuleta. The Brobecks. And I'm just scooting through here. Julianne Hough is apparently... This now, take this for what you want. This is just from a random website I'm scrolling. Some of these may be completely wrong, but this is just what I'm seeing. So that's kind of interesting to me. But yeah, I would never have... I guess, Provo, Utah. Imagine Dragons. Interesting. Wouldn't have known that.
Imagine Dragons is from Provo. That's interesting. I did not know that.
I didn't either. Oh, so apparently Lindsey Sterling is from Santa Ana, California, but moved to Provo. And that's kind of where she got into the violin with EDM. So, yeah. But there you go. Anyway, I gave you some options there. Maybe somebody comes up with one, and maybe you just use a Panic at the Disco song.
I would be totally down with some Lindsey Sterling.
Urie was born in St. George, Utah. Brandon Urie from Panic at the Disco. So, or is
Panic at the Disco?
Or he's not. Wait, he's not Panic at the Disco, is he? Yeah, Panic at the Disco. I'm not mixing my guys up, I swear. No. There's just some food for thought. So, what would you go with?
I mean, like, I'm trying to now imagine that you mentioned Panic at the Disco. We're running out of time here, so I just want to kind of like, we're going to wrap things up. But I'm trying to imagine a goal song where it's I write sins, not strategies. Like, can it work?
Maybe you get a collab going. A Brendan Urie, Lindsey Sterling collab.
Ooh, I like where you're going there. Some thoughts. We're coming at some good ideas, and if you're from the Utah Hockey Club and you're hearing our ideas, you got to credit us. You got.
And here to debut the new goal song is Robyn Leonio. You just walk out on stage. I don't know why it's on stage, but
do I get to press the goal horn for that?
Oh, I think you absolutely should. You should 100% hit the horn. Yes.
So there's another thing. Yeah, if you come up, if you use one of our ideas, you have to invite one of us, ideally me, and I hit the goal button and get that goal horn out.
I support it. You can have the honor.
Love to hear it. Any final thoughts as we close things off?
Not for right now. I know there's plenty for us to talk about, but we've run pretty long on the show, so I think it's a good time to just say thanks for listening, as always, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you guys like what you heard. If you did, don't leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows. As a reminder, later this week, we're going to have a lot of content coming your way. Tuesdays are always our Hockey 101 days, so we're going to have some little hockey education for those newbie hockey players. So be sure to tune in if you are one of those, or tune in otherwise, because maybe you might learn something new. Don't forget to interact with us on social media, though. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnNHL in Utah, and on Twitter, now known as X, on Instagram, Threads, all those at LO_NHL Utah. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on Air. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you guys next time.